Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Midday Live on TV3. Is coming to you live from a news hub here at Adesawe Kanda. My name is Grace Hamwa Asari. Coming up, Tema Police Command arrests 9 persons suspected of dealing in illicit drugs at Tulaku, a suburb within Ashaiman municipality. Also, Labour expert Austin Game expresses concern over reports of takeover of civil servants in various ministries. On the international front, a number of earthquakes have hit Hawaii's Big Island a day after the eruption of the Kiwi volcano in the U.S. We have details shortly. Please stay. Let's go to our stories now. The Tema Police Command has arrested 9 persons suspected of dealing in illicit drugs at Tulaku, a suburb within Ashaiman municipality. Deputy Regional Commander DCOP Bwedu Pepra led his team to make the arrest.
Items retrieved from the suspects include 8 slabs of compressed dried leaves suspected to be cannabis, 40 wraps and a large quantity of dried leaves also suspected to be cannabis. A number of mobile phones, machetes, knives and other implements were also retrieved from the suspects. Briefing newsmen at the Regional Police Headquarters, the Tema Regional Police Commander DCOP Nana Hine Asuma said such operations would be conducted regularly within the various divisions, districts and metropolises.
Our intelligence indicated that a lot of people are there who are involved in criminal activities. During the sweep, we were able to arrest 9 suspects. The scary aspect was that we found a lot of knives, double-edged sword knives were found there. A number of mobile phones were also retrieved from these people. Currently, they are arrested in our case, we're giving them an accommodation to sleep over there while we screen them. At the close of the screen, if we found those who are found to be culpable, we move them to the next stage as we move on to court.
Meanwhile, the dried leaves suspected to be cannabis have been forwarded to the police forensic laboratory for examination.
Let's do a lot more on this story and speak with DSP Joseph Dakwa, who is police PRO for the Tema region. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
So, DSP, tell us, are these 2 parts of the operation Calm Lives?
Yeah, thank you very much. Like my commander indicated, as part of measures to clamp down on the havens of the criminals and the miscreants in the Tema metropolis, we are embarking on a series of operations. Like my commander indicated, this is not going to be a 9-day wonder. We're going to continue until we make sure, if not wiping up completely the havens of miscreants, at least we bring it down to the barest minimum. So this is part of the measures taken by the Tema Regional Police Command to, as it were, clamp down on the activities of criminals in the metropolis.
So, DSP, Ghanaians would want a lot more of specification. How soon should we expect another swoop in that area as well as other parts of the country?
I must say the operation is ongoing. You know, we need to strategize. We need to, go and recce the place. We need to send plainclothes uniform men to go and look at what is happening. So it's an ongoing operation. It's a process. It's not going to be a 9-day wonder, as my commander indicated. So it's forever. Let me put it that way. It will be ongoing.
And DSP, we've had a lot of reports of swoops, but afterwards we don't really hear what happened to those who are arrested. What's the next step after here?
Yes, like my commander indicated, after such an operation, after a swoop, what we need to do is to conduct investigation into the whole issue. And those found culpable, that's those who are found to have, those who were found in possession with cannabis, or what we popularly call as uju, will be then charged and prosecuted. Usually, I must say, the justice system sometimes take a longer time, but the population, the citizens should bear with us, because we need evidence before we can go to court. So that is why. And then even as as indicated by my commander, after this we have to send the dry leaves, which we suspected to be cannabis, to the forensic lab for it to be proven that really it is cannabis. And then thereafter, the people are charged, and then they are prosecuted. So, in as much as I would say sometimes it takes some time, I will also plead with citizens to bear with us, because we must go through the due process to get convictions at the court.
Thank you very much, DSP Joseph Dakwais, PRO of the police for the Tema region, bringing us up to speed on the arrest of some 9 suspects who are dealing in illicit drugs. Let's do a lot more on drugs, because 12 unlicensed drug dealers have been rounded up for producing and distributing herbal concoctions, unlicensed and unapproved drugs at Ashaiman. The joint operation by the FDA, police, judges and the media followed months of surveillance. Peter Kwao-Adato reports large quantities of assorted herbal concoctions and unlicensed drugs were also retrieved in the nearly 2 hours operation.
Friday operation was part of a 5-day training on pharmaceutical crime, investigations and intelligence organized by the Food and Drugs Authority for the judiciary, security agencies and the media. It aimed at exposing participants to the realities and difficulties in enforcing the drug laws.
I didn't understand who and who are inside there, right? Only you people will go. No problem.
6 teams took part in the operation at the Ashaiman main market and Ashaiman Zongo based on intelligence. 12 unlicensed drug dealers were picked at their various distribution points during the 2-hour operation. This Mali national walked into the team at Ashaiman Zongo with his assorted drugs and other unapproved products and was arrested. The 13th target, who is the manufacturer of a herbal concoction, however escaped arrest as he had left his home, which doubled as the production house ahead of the team's arrival. Large quantities of assorted herbal substances, aphrodisiac and other unapproved drugs were also seized at the end of the exercise. Both the seized drugs and the suspected dealers were taken to the FDA head office for processing.
Before you can deal in pharmaceuticals, there are certain criteria that you have to meet. One of them is to get a license from Pharmacy Council. The second one is to make sure that all products that you sell are registered by the Food and Drugs Authority. But what do you see here? All manner of traders dealing in all manner of drugs. Most of these drugs are not registered by the Food and Drugs Authority. And for that matter, we think it is our duty to rid them of the market.
Some of the suspects have been sharing their experience with the media.
For me, the person who surprised me is about, let's say, 2 years now. It is only snuff and then fever mixture, and the fever mixture has got finished. Even the one who is producing it has expired.
So what we see there is what?
It's ordinary water that is in. You can check it right now. Ordinary water.
And what does it cure?
No, I put it there for example, because normally people will be asking of it. If you come, I'll tell you that the medicine itself has got finished.
Both the suspects and the exhibits will be handed over to the police for further investigation and prosecution.
To some other stories, the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration has vowed to work towards ensuring all bottlenecks hindering the smooth acquisition of passports in Ghana are dealt with. Shelley Ayoko-Boche, who paid an unannounced visit to the passport offices in Accra, revealed government's resolve to review the validity of passports from 5 to 10 years.
The Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Shelley Ayoko-Boche, first visited the validation section of the Accra Passport Acquisition Office to find out at first-hand processes of passport acquisition.
Each person will go through 8 or 10 people. Vetting process.
We have brought it, we'll treat it 100 for you. Okay. You understand? Okay. But once you bought 50, we would accept it. That's the minimum.
The minister then interacted with some applicants.
The problem right now is the waiting time and the time you have to get here to be able to make the first 100.
She then proceeded to the capturing section.
When somebody comes, what happens? There's one person here. What do you do?
At the online application center, the process appeared to be calmer as applicants were going through the processes more smoothly. At the collection center, the minister had to personally intervene to collect a passport for an applicant who has applied for the past 4 months. The minister later visited the passport office at Ridge, where the pressure was less. She interacted with some workers at the office.
What is your capacity per day?
2,000. Printing.
The printer takes 2,000 per day. But according to the manufacturers, if we print 2,000 every day, it will break down.
Here, the minister again had to ensure 35-year-old applicant Charity Hinka got her passport after facing challenges since she applied in December. The minister said in order to ensure a timely acquisition of passport, will decentralize the process.
We should have more than one in Accra. So we are opening Eastern Region and once we open these 2, we will be left with 3 packs, which is Central Region, Upper East and Upper West. We have one in Tamale. In addition to that, we are looking at working with VFS to collect, be the front-end service to collect the data and then send it to a place like this to have it verified and then printed.
The Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration said the expiration period of passport acquisition will also be worked on.
I know that we are probably the only country that is printing passport with a duration of 5 years. It was as a short temporary measure, interim measure. We are going to go back to the 10 years, and that I can show Ghanaians so that you don't have to go through too many problems within short period.
Shirley Ayoko-Boche promised government resolve to ensure laid down processes in passport acquisition in the country are adhered to.
Away from that, farmers are among the first victims of climate change as they rely on the weather and the environment in its entirety for their production and livelihoods. Taking climate action will therefore help meet the goal of feeding people sustainably in a warming world. However, climate finance has remained a challenge in the ongoing climate negotiations in Bonn, Germany. Kofi Edudumfe reports on the process so far and concerns being raised at the climate talks.
Climate justice has been very strong here at the Bonn Climate Talks in Germany. Now, if you are in Ghana, you are experiencing extreme weather conditions currently. Indeed, it's been raining heavy and incessant in recent times. At the same time, the weather is very hot. This, according to science, is the reality of the changing climate and the impact on vulnerable communities like we're experiencing on our farmlands in local communities.
If we don't get it, shut it down! If we don't get it, shut it down!
The delegates come and the delegates go and the delegates talk, and the CO2 statistics are, we've had a plateau for 3 years, but now CO2 is rising again. I see no reduction in planes flying, I see no reductions in cars driving, I see no reductions in air conditioning. Non-African countries should stop meddling in Africa. They should stop they should stop fishing around Africa, they should stop buying African land, they should stop dumping their waste in Africa, they should stop polluting Africa.
The developing countries are overstretched in terms of addressing these disasters caused by climate change. We have really to bite the bullet and accept the reality that there is no way we can address climate change without money.
There are times that rains come before we expect them, or they come far later, and then the farmers are lost and went to plant their crops, and that changes everything. Even our socio-cultural calendars are being impacted by that. And all we are asking these other people is to change their ways of life, because their ways of life have and continue and will continue to impact us if they don't change.
Voices indeed will continue to be high until climate justice is sought here in Bonn. For TV3 News, Kofi Edudomfe, Bonn, Germany.
Let's develop more on this story. And the world has gathered in Bonn, Germany to shape negotiations for the implementation of the Paris Climate Change Agreement. But how relevant are these climate talks to the average Ghanaian? Our correspondent at the conference, Kofi Edudomfe, joins us live from Bonn. Kofi, hello to you.
Hello, Grace.
So can you tell us, what are the critical issues being discussed at the conference?
So basically, there are two major issues. One has to do with mitigation and adaptation to the climatic conditions. But you know, for us in the developing world, especially in Ghana, where we are experiencing the extremes of weather conditions. For instance, it has been raining, of course, very heavy, even when we have not expected, right from February to this very moment. And farmers who apparently plant according to the seasons are being challenged in the process. Now, even when the sun is up, it's so scorchy that you find it very difficult to bear. Now, these are the extreme conditions that scientists have said are the realities of the impacts of climate change. Now, here in Bonn at the talks, I must say in 2015, December 2015, in Paris, there was the global agreement, which has been tagged as the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. Now, these processes, as they are happening now, are towards the implementation of the Paris Agreement to reduce carbon emissions by 1.5 Celsius, and as well as also find ways and means to mitigate the impacts of the climate change. So by 2020, the world is expected to implement this Paris Agreement. So what is happening here is that negotiators in the form of parties, countries, representatives, non-governmental and international organizations, the media are all here trying to shape the process as to how the implementation will go come 2020. So far, some of the critical issues which should be of interest to us in Ghana and other developing countries has to do with issues of finance and agriculture. Now, agriculture is critical because
That was our correspondent, Kofi Edudomfe, joining us from Bonn, Germany, on the climate change conversation. There's some other stories now. And Amnesty International Ghana has expressed concern at what it describes as a culture of silence on the campus of the University of Education, Winneba. The human rights organization said at a news conference in Accra, authorities in the school have constantly abused the rights of lecturers and students to the extent of illegally evicting some officers of the university.
Amnesty International Ghana says it has followed happenings within the University of Education Winneba since 2017 and started investigations into reported cases of victimization, wrongful dismissal and intimidation. The human rights group insists there are ongoing cases of withholding of staff salaries, rejection of authentic excuse duties, and attempts to dismiss some staff members.
We are concerned that authorities in the University of Education, a higher institution of learning, which is also the center for conflict, human rights, and peace study, can blatantly violate human rights of citizens.
Amnesty International alleged that 2 lecturers of the university have been forcibly evicted from their official residence.
One of the senior staff, Dr. Samuel Uforibequin, was hurriedly dismissed in April on allegation that is being investigated by the police. The police are yet to establish a prima facie case to continue pursuing the case that is pending before the court in Winneba. Following this, the staff was asked to vacate his official bungalow. The university authorities directed that the staff should be forcibly evicted from his official bungalow. While it was raining, with strong winds, the university's authorities and their assigned officials removed the doors to his official bungalow, leaving his items exposed.
The human rights-based organization pledged to compile a report about happenings in the university soon.
Let's stay on this story and speak with Samuel Abochi, who is campaign and fundraising coordinator of Amnesty International. Good afternoon to you, sir. Good afternoon, madam. Sir, so has your organization contacted management of the university, and what has been their response so far?
Of course, when we started investigating this issue, myself and my director wrote to the university authorities. We've written to the acting vice chancellor, seeking audience to hear his side of the story. We've also written to the council chairperson, seeking audience with him to hear his side of the story. In fact, the council chairperson, I must commend him. He has called back immediately. He received a letter booking an appointment, fixing a date and an appointment with us. Unfortunately, he called back after a day or two to tell us that he had wanted to meet us with another council member who wouldn't be around at the date and time he's given us. And therefore, he apologetically withdrawn the date, and he promised getting back to us when he fixed another time. The acting vice chancellor, I followed up with a call, and then when he picked my call, I introduced myself, and he told me he's busy at the time, and he's going to get back to me. In fact, he's here to get back to us. So that is where we are now.
So looking at the interaction you've had with them so far, would you say the school is willing or prepared to listen to whatever you've raised in your reports?
Well, we can't draw that conclusion yet because, as I said earlier, the council chairperson got back to us. Okay. So we are hoping that we haven't closed the doors, and I'm not sure they've also closed the door to management side of the story. We want to present a comprehensive report that represents the issue on campus, and that every view, every feeling, every situation on campus is represented in that report, that we have every side of the story, so that we'll make a recommendation as to what will be the way forward. We really want to make a recommendation based on the report and our finding to the President of the Republic of Ghana to intervene in whatever recommendations that we will give. But as it is now, things doesn't look too well at University of Education, Winneba.
So taking it away from the campus of UEW to generally the various campuses in Ghana, would you say these issues have become one too many?
Well, we haven't updated ourselves on issues happening in other universities, but when we follow up on the general news, both print and media and social media, what is happening at the University of Education is unique. It's unique and unheard of in the history of the universities in Ghana. Yeah. We have so many universities, private universities and state universities, but what is happening at the University of Education can never happen in a higher institution of learning anywhere, in any country. It's unheard of that a university is run the way it is being run at the education, to the extent that that is where we have the Center of Peace, Human Rights and Conflict Resolution Center in Ghana. And this thing is happening right at the nose of that particular center, and which is quite absurd, to the extent that as a student, you watch your lecturer, a senior lecturer's door ranked off, windows ripped off, louver blade ripped off, mosquito net ripped off. You see your lecturer, somebody who has taught you, who has
taught you to get a value certificate that you're going to use for your future, being treated this way in front of students, it is completely unacceptable. It is not only a violation of the dignity of Dr. Bekwai and other doctors, other lecturers in a similar situation, it is also an indictment on the integrity of the university and the university authorities for a senior lecturer and a lecturer, of course, in a tertiary institutions like the university to be treated that way. It is unacceptable. It is a disgrace to the university, a disgrace to us as a country. If outside world will see that video of a senior lecturer being treated, being evicted, our law says that you should be given 90 days notice for eviction. That's what our law says. And the university that is practicing human rights gave the lecturer and other lecturers in similar situation less than 1 month to pack, and completely unacceptable. And we are calling on civil society. We are calling on civil society. We are calling on the President of the Republic of Ghana. We are calling on the Minister of Education. We are calling on professors and other university lecturers and vice chancellors not to sit down to see a fellow university being treated like a primary school. I'm sorry to use that word.
Obviously, they are listening, and I'm sure they would want to join in your campaign. I've been speaking with Samuel Abochi, who is campaign and fundraising coordinator of Amnesty International. You're still watching Midday Live on TV3. We're back with some more stories after this break. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're still watching Midday Live on TV3. Let's do some other stories now. Low productivity still remains one of the challenges confronting Ghana. Comparatively, the private sector respects time as against a public service. To curtail the problem, the biometric clock in the system was introduced as one innovative way to check absenteeism and correct the flaws in the system. Richard Bright looks at how this impacts on overall output of workers.
So this is a typical clocking system. The fingerprints of all the workers of a particular company are captured and stored in here. And so all that is required of workers is that when you report in, you place a finger on the small scanner provided here, and then the machine captures your fingers, indicating that you are present or you have reported to work. But how does this contribute to productivity?
The Ghanaian worker is noted for poor time attitude and absenteeism. This is prevalent in the civil service. The biometric clock-in terminal came in to ensure employee attendance and the accurate tracking of hours worked, replacing the laborious manual attendance book. The system has been operational in many companies in Ghana for over a decade now. But many argue the system does not impact on productivity. One of such people is David Mills, a human resource consultant.
It serves a purpose, but it does not directly translate into employee productivity because there are many factors that impact productivity beyond clocking in at 8 and exiting at 5 or 6.
Interestingly, many find both the manual attendance system and the biometric fingerprint as unnecessary. This is because it is easy for recalcitrant employees to report to work and pretend to be working all day until it is time to leave.
Okay, I think in absence of that, people will not be, they can choose to come to work or not. Okay, so it's for punctuality is good. Okay, but for productivity, there's a bit of problem.
If you don't do that, workers will swindle you. They will come in late and then they will leave early.
The HR consultant believes the performance contract is often preferred by many employers to check these flaws. Tied to the biometric clock-in system is cost. TV3 checks at the market indicates a company needs to dish out between 2,000 and 4,000 Ghana cedis to procure one device. Backup batteries cost 600 Ghana cedis, whilst installations attract between 300 and 1,000 cedis. The government in 2014 directed all metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies to install clock-in system. Evidence on the ground shows most assemblies are without the device. There is presently 37 ministries, excluding those recently created, but TV3 checks indicate most of them do not have the clock-in system, including the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development and the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice, creating a fertile ground for absenteeism. Government workers still write in attendance books, but the Office of the Head of Civil Service has a clock-in system, and the director in charge of planning and monitoring says all the ministries have individual work schedules to monitor their levels of productivity.
When we talk about productivity, we are looking at people coming to work and delivering on set targets or whatever assignments that they have been tasked to do.
Government has promised it is seeking an innovative mode of linking productivity to salaries of all public and civil servants. But until that happens, many workers will report to work late and leave office early before closing time. Richard Brightado, TV3, Accra.
Let's also talk about labor and productivity, because President Akufo-Addo says government will partner labor to promote an effective and efficient labor force to enhance national development. Swearing in a 7-member board of the National Labor Commission at the Jubilee House, the president charged them to be neutral and impartial in resolving disputes at the labor front.
At all times.
Well and truly.
Well and truly.
President Akufo-Addo charged the 7-member board chaired by Andrew Kwabena Asamoah to ensure sanity and tranquility on the labor front to enhance productivity and growth.
You have been chosen to discharge these functions because of your impartiality and integrity. Do not disappoint your well-wishers, which includes me. You have to familiarize yourself with all the details and the rules of procedure that are set out in the regulations, and make sure that at all times you work in conformity with these provisions. That is what will guarantee the credibility of any decisions and awards that you make in the discharge of your functions.
Board Chairman of the National Labour Commission, Andrew Kwabena Asamoah, promised to ensure a united labour front.
I pledge that the Commission will do its utmost to ensure that the government, the labor force, and all other stakeholders will work assiduously to sustain a peaceful and harmonious relationship.
The President would administer.
And the Member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram, Samuel George Nate, is questioning government's claim of creating over 1 million jobs in 15 months, accusing the Employment Minister of lying to Ghanaians. But a member of the NPP communication team, Gary Nimako, insists the Ningo Prampram MP had no basis for questioning the figures until he provides contrary evidence.
Let me state on authority that the minister has told an untruth, and that under the Planting for Food and Jobs, this government has employed only 3,230 people. And I'll give you evidence to buttress that. But before I go there, let's even take the World Population Review of 2018, which puts Ghana's working population at 12 million Ghanaians. In the State of the Nation's Address 2018 by His Excellency President Akufo-Addo, he put Ghana's unemployment rate at 5.7%. So if you take 5.7% of 12 million Ghanaians, that's 684,000 unemployed people. So if the minister claims that he created 1 million jobs, it means we should have an excess of 300,000 jobs that are sitting there. So again, you see the disconnect between the figures that are being put out by both the president and the minister in terms of reality, because the president says 5.7% of Ghanaians are unemployed. Even in the minister's own speech in Kumasi, he made reference to the labor force survey of 2015. That labor force survey puts Ghana's total unemployment rate, or unemployed people, at 1,250,913 people. So it then means that if he had created 1 million jobs, we've effectively wiped out unemployment in Ghana.
Now, when we say that, look, it is not true, it is not factual, the minister told untruth to Ghanaians, the question I ask, have you gone to the ground to verify the figures to come to a different conclusion as to whether the minister has peddled falsehood or otherwise? I don't think that if you haven't done that, it's proper and fair to say that a minister has paid falsehood to Ghanaians. If you ask my brother, if he has gone to the ground,
to the budget statement, and
the budget statement is a budget of estimates. It's a budget of estimates.
This was in respect of what had happened in 2017, so that would have captured the actuals.
In the absence of my own very good brother, Sam George, honorable, who I so dearly love, not having gone to the ground to verify the figures, I think that it would be premature for him to say that the minister has paid the falsehood to the Ghanaians. Let him go to the ground and come back to us next week on this show to say that he went to the ground and the people are there or they are not there.
Still on jobs, a labor expert, Austin Game, is expressing concern about latest report that special assistants are taking over the roles of civil servants in various ministries. Early this week, the Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana wants government to move in to clear special assistants from the ministries if government fails to act. Speaking on New Day, Austin Game says government must stop the practice immediately if the claims by Clocksack are true.
Every village you have a Mensa there. So the reality is that you cannot lump the entire civil service into the same basket. There may be some bad notes in between. And then you can complain through the structures and they may be able to resolve it or otherwise. And that's why in the Labour Act we provided, and they are also covered, we provided that we must train, retrain, and develop the skills of the people. And with these rapidly changing technologies, with the kind of computerization system, the high-level Excel functioning system that we have, you can use one person to generate 15 years information in 30 minutes. We need to just train them and they'll respond to it. So my plea and suggestion strongly is that if it is a fact that this thing is ongoing, we need to stop it and use sparingly these people to provide some sort of consultancy services as and when it is very, very necessary. But to place them in this square, if they want to react, government will become a bit frustrated.
To some other stories, the Bank of Ghana says it has not taken over the powers and responsibilities of Sovereign Bank, as was in the case of Unibank. A statement from the central bank following media reports that the regulator had taken over the bank clarified that an advisor, unlike an official administrator, does not take over the powers, responsibilities and duties of the bank's shareholders, directors or management.
The Sovereign Bank was licensed by the Bank of Ghana as a universal bank in January 2016. As part of its supervisory functions, the Bank of Ghana completed an on-site examination of the bank in December 2017. The outcome of the on-site examination revealed some governance and capitalization challenges which needed to be addressed. The Bank of Ghana has a range of powers under the Banks and Specialized Deposit-Taking Institutions Act of 2016, Act 930, to take prompt remedial action to address supervisory concerns it identifies in a regulated institution. One of such powers is to appoint an advisor under Section 101(1) of Act 930 that will advise an institution's management. Consequently, and in accordance with Section 101(1) of Act 930, the Bank of Ghana appointed an advisor in April 2018 to advise the management of Sovereign Bank Limited. The central bank said the advisor is expected to help monitor the bank's recapitalization efforts and implementation of governance reforms agreed with the Bank of Ghana. Sovereign Bank is as a result of continuous engagements that they had with officials of the bank over a long period of time. And from what we gather, this particular decision was taken just around the same time the central bank decided to take over the operations of Unibank. We'll keep an eye on the situation and bring you a lot more detail. The advisor will stay in the bank until otherwise advised by the Bank of Ghana and will furnish the Bank of Ghana with a status report on the bank as frequently as the Bank of Ghana requires. Officials of the bank were not readily available to speak on the developments. However, the statement from the Bank of Ghana stated that it is important to note that an advisor, unlike an official administrator, does not take over the powers, responsibilities, and duties of the bank's shareholders, directors, or management. It further assured depositors and customers of Sovereign Bank that the bank remains under the control of the bank's own management and that customers' deposits are safe.
You're still watching Midday Live on TV3. We are back with sports after this break. Don't go away. Now, 18 House Republicans have nominated Donald Trump for the 2019 Nobel Peace. The lawmakers claim this would recognize his work to end the Korean War, denuclearize the Korean Peninsula, and bring peace to the region. However, international relations lecturer with the Webster University, Agnes Ko-Dizzy, in an interview with Natalie Ford, said in the Nobel Peace Prize should be won by the people of North and South Korea in recognition of their long suffering.
Closer to potentially having something happen with respect to the Korean Peninsula that can get rid of the nuclear weapons.
Trump has been very unpredictable, as we know, about his foreign policies. If, in fact, he has any consistent policy to speak of at all. It's very clear that ever since Trump took power, nothing of his policy has actually worked. So, in fact, it is really a gift for him, it's a blessing for him that this one works. You know, it is going to be the sort of kudos, something that he can hold up in his report card, that finally he has achieved something positive since he took over power. Trump should win a Nobel Peace Prize. I think, in fact, it is the people of North and South Korea should really win this Nobel Peace Prize for the very fact that they have endured a war that was always threatening at the brink of breaking out for 70 years and managed to maintain peace despite the very unconducive and sometimes very threatening, challenging geopolitical structures and dynamics around them, you know, being caught in the whole dynamics of the superpowers, Japan, China, Russia, and the United States. They held on well. It is actually Kim Jong-un that really holds the key from the start to the end of the process, ironically, you know, a dictator. A dictator that his people are afraid of, that is not very well liked internationally. He took the initiative. In fact, he basically took the initiative and called the shots. So I think Kim Jong-un came out really sort of the winner of the whole game. But of course, we also recognize that he couldn't have done that without the support of China. So his visit to China was very indicative of what was to come.
Still on the international front, a number of earthquakes have hit Hawaii's Big Island a day after the eruption of the Kilauea volcano. One quake, a 6.9 magnitude southeast of the volcano, was the most powerful to hit the U.S. state since 1975. Its briefly cut power sent people fleeing from buildings, but there was no tsunami warning. Meanwhile, there were several fresh eruptions sending up fountains of lava 30 meters, destroying several homes and leaving fissures on 3 states. The Civil Defense Agency said 3 deadly levels of dangerous sulfur dioxide gas in the air, and emergency crews would not be able to help anyone affected. Let's do some stories in the world of entertainment. And do you remember the young man who was outdoored by the award-winning reggae dancehall artist Samini on the VGMA stage as Ghana's next big star? Well, he's the newest high-grade family signee. Dion Boache opens up about his career.
Having been influenced by the likes of Bob Marley, Kojo Aintree and other great music legends, the budding Afropop singer and songwriter Gideon Adade Boakye, aka Dion Boakye, created his major hit music at a tender age.
And my dad and mom used to be in a choir, so having music around me was obvious. And I've been listening to some people like Bob Marley, Kojo Aintree, so I had interest in it. And I quite remember the first time I knew I could sing was when I was singing Bob Marley's song, Turn Your Lights Down Low. And my dad was like, hey, Kofi, what is that doing? And that was it.
How old were you then?
I was very, very, very young. So that has been the journey. We did our first song in Kumasi, which was Alewa.
All my exes, all my haters, all my enemies. Girl, when I come back, hold on to me like a handbag.
After his significant stride as a young artist, Dion decided to quit school, but was encouraged to go back to school by his father.
Because after Alewa, I didn't want to go to school. After Alewa, I was huge. So, yeah, because then my first show was in Tamale. I know. Was very huge. Saying that time, I went to that show with Kaboom, Flokin. It's your home school party, Metro party. So I had issues with my dad, and the only way I could move on was to go to school. But trust me, the graphic designing I learned in school is one major thing helping me now. I got to know about branding, marketing and everything with the graphic design, and I don't regret that decision.
Dion Boakye seems to have sung his way deep into the hearts of music lovers. His Afrobeat high life tune is prominent on Ghanaian radio and TV stations.
A lot more talents coming up in the Ghanaian music industry, but that's it for Midday Live on TV3. Before we go, let's do a recap of the stories that's made headlines. Tema Police Command arrests 9 persons suspected of dealing in illicit drugs at Tulaku, a suburb within Ashaiman municipality. Also, Labour expert Austin Gami expresses concern over reports of takeover of civil servants in various ministries. Many thanks for joining us. My name is Grace Hamwa Asari. Enjoy the rest of our programs. Good afternoon.